Have you ever felt like your team has all the talent, all the tools, and all the potential, but somehow the energy just wasn't flowing right? When communication stalls and momentum fades and everyone's working hard but not together, it's not a people problem. It's a flow problem. And today we're talking about how to fix it, how to realign, refocus, and reignite team performance from the inside out. Come on, let's go ahead and talk about it. Welcome back to Transformation Station, the podcast where we help leaders grow stronger, teams work smarter, and organizations live out their purpose with passion. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today's episode is one that every leader needs to hear. That's right, fix the flow. We're talking about realigning, refocus, and reigniting. So, today, I'm absolutely thrilled because I have an amazing guest who is a colleague, a phenomenal leader that I have known for many years, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have him with us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Robert Mills. That's right. Dr. Robert Mills serves as the Deputy Chaplain of the United States Coast Guard in Washington, D.C., providing leadership and spiritual oversight for more than 160 chaplains supporting 51,000 Coast Guard members and their families worldwide. He's a decorated Navy chaplain and 2020 recipient of the U.S. Naval Forces Pacific Chaplain of the Year Award. Dr. Mills has served across multiple commands, specializing in trauma ministry, organizational leadership, and resilience. And today, it is my honor and privilege to welcome Dr. Mills to Transformation Station. Dr. Mills, welcome. So glad you're with us today.
Thank you, Adrienne. It's good to be here with you. Thank you.
Yes, and as we get started, we want to absolutely 1000% let everybody know that Dr. Mills and I are both naval officers, and yet as we have this conversation, our words, our views, they are not directly representing the Navy. We are representing the ministry and our leadership experiences. Please understand that from the beginning. We want to give you that disclaimer. So, Dr. Mills, listen, here's what I've been thinking as I was preparing for this episode. As leaders, we all know what it feels like when our team rhythm is off. When something just doesn't, like, people have to say a word, but something just feels a little off, right? The meeting still happens, the goals are still there, the emails are still getting sent, things keep moving, but something feels off. It's almost like the synergy starts to fade, the spark starts to get dull. We're talking about realigning and refocus, right? And I really believe, Dr. Mills, that this conversation today, it really matters because I've seen from personal experience, when my team starts to lose their flow, it's not just about productivity. Many times it's about people feeling disconnected from the mission, from the purpose, and even sometimes, Dr. Mills, from each other. So I want to start off by asking you this question. When you walk into a team that's stuck, what are some of the first signs you notice that indicate the flow is off here?
So what I look for when I'm evaluating a team, when I'm coming into a situation, I look for solid communication. I look for people whose communication is landing. In other words, they're not doing this, just saying words or shooting words into an email or Slack or whatever, that the communication is being fully understood and acted on. And I'm looking for people who are moving in the same direction. So if that's not happening, some of the clues are that people aren't answering emails or calls. A lot of times when I'm inheriting a broken team, when I'm walking into a situation where it's not working well, I sense that people are overwhelmed and they feel like there's too much for them. So they dread an email coming in, they dread a call coming in, and they go to great lengths often to avoid that.
Mm-hmm.
Just in a practical sense, I look for doors. Are the doors literally open to people's offices?
That's a good one.
If they're in a private meeting, sure, the door needs to be closed. If it's a private phone call, sure, the door needs to be closed. But when that's finished, does the door open back up? Is there a kind of a welcoming, open atmosphere? Is there a vibe that says, hey, we're open for business. Come on in and do business with us. Work together. If it's off, if the flow is broken, like you said, if the flow is not working, then I'm often seeing people who are avoiding asking. They're avoiding anything that might work them further. And that says to me, ooh, okay, something's wrong here. Something is off. Somebody is either not leading well, or maybe the group has lost its mojo, so to speak, that kind of a thing. So that's what I look for. I look for open doors. I look for answered emails and calls. I look for, when I walk into the room, literally, the office area, if they're in a literal office, I'm looking for people to stand up and say, hey, welcome, we're glad you're here. If I don't get that, if people seem to be avoiding, then that tells me that's a prime signal that something isn't working well. Yeah.
I love that. I never really stopped to think about the door being open or closed, but I can definitely see that. That is a signal right there. Another one that I thought about as you were talking was decision-making hesitation. If the team seems to delay making choices or default always to what is safe, that tells me that there's something in that culture that does not support creativity, innovation, or value the opinions of the people on the team. I've seen that from firsthand experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another one that I thought about too, while you were talking, was emotional climate. If the culture, the climate is emotional, right? Like there's a subtle tension, or this one here, if I hear sarcasm being used quite often, that's a
Yes.
sign many times. Okay, there are things that have been happening that people have not been honest about, and they're holding on. They're a little resentful, right? Or if you say something, I've seen this one, you say something and instantly people get defensive. Things seem like they're fine, but all of a sudden people are triggered by the slightest things. Many times that's a sign.
Absolutely. Let me jump in on that just for a minute, Adrienne. When people are afraid, these things start to happen. The sarcasm, the defensiveness, the closed doors, when they're leading from a place of fear. A lot of times that is what is happening. And I've seen it again and again and again. If the primary driver of decisions in the leader is emotion only, then you're often going to end up with brittle decision making. So yes, absolutely. That's one of the things that I look for as I'm coming into a situation. Is the leader confident? Is the team comfortable together? Are they comfortable in their own skin as the team, in their definition as the team? If not, there's something broken somewhere, and we need to do a little digging to find out what that is.
I love that. This is so powerful because many times it's an easy fix to fix the visible symptoms, but sometimes we miss the root causes. So let's talk about what it actually takes to realign that flow, right? So we talk about realignment as one of the first steps towards bettering, re-imaging the performance, right? What does realignment actually look like in practice? And how can leaders know when their team is out of alignment? We kind of talked about that a little bit, right? So let's focus on, like, what are some of the steps towards realigning our team?
Okay. I firmly believe that good leadership is stewardship. It's stewardship of time, talent, treasure, resources, and goodwill. when we have a mission and we're all pulling together to move into that mission, then we share resources together. We share ideas together. We move together to make good things happen for the team. When that starts to fall apart, we start to pull individually and separately, and often in different directions. So, a steward leader, or a leader who is a good steward, is going to carefully manage the process of mission accomplishment. Mission accomplishment is always at the top, but they're going to take care of their people while they're doing it. So one of the great texts that I have followed when I have change to make in an organization, I use Cotter's 8-step change model. It's been very informative for me, and I've seen tremendous success using that model to help teams that are stuck move forward. It's incredibly powerful when people start to see the vision. And of course, this is it's leadership 101, is casting a vision for the team. So what realignment looks like in practice is evaluating where we're broken. So the good old SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The good old SWOT analysis, looking at your situation with clear eyes, and then saying, how are we going to fix this? Applying something structured to it. And Cotter's is only one of the models, but there are many that are equally successful in moving the team off of a dysfunctional place to a functional and strategically moving place. I mean, Patrick Lencioni, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, great allegory for what we're looking at here. When you see these kinds of things happening, when you see people pulling in different directions, and you hear a lot of me language, I language, instead of we and us and the team, then you're starting to see that something is off. So realignment to me looks like finding the problem, and that takes time. You can't instantly find that. It's usually layers deep, and that takes some time, which is why if we come in as consultants, for instance, into a situation, we need to give more than a day or two. We need to give a good chunk of a life cycle of their process and their decision making, so that we understand it and can listen and drill down and ascertain what's going on. So carefully evaluating what's broken, and then making concrete, obtainable steps. I mean, SMART goals is a good way to start there, in moving the team toward wins instead of losses. And we'll talk about that a little more later. But that's one of the ways that I understand what realignment looks like, practically speaking.
Yeah, I love that. So here at Transformation Station, we always give our listeners and viewers, our leaders, an opportunity to pause, to reflect, right? So right now, I want to invite everybody to reflect on what Dr. Mills just shared with us. And also think about what does that look like for you in practice, in your workspace, in your culture, in your community? This is a really good time for you to ask that question, answer it, and then begin to process how can you commit to realignment in practice, in everyday living. One of the things that I thought about while you were talking, as far as what realignment looks like, is resetting priorities. Simplifying the focus areas so everyone knows what matters most now. I've seen in some spaces where there's multiple goals, there's multiple missions, there's multiple things that need to happen. But because there's multiple and there hasn't been a priority conversation, everybody's trying to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, focusing on all these different things, and nothing is actually getting accomplished.
Yep.
As a leader, we have an opportunity to stop, reset the priorities, right? Refocus the team. Another one is reconnecting to purpose. Leaders take time to revisit the why behind the work, not just the what. I had a situation recently where I noticed my team, I was like, okay, something's a little bit off. And they actually share with me, like, we don't know anymore why we're doing this. Like, what it feels like we're just doing it to do it. And we were able to have a clarifying conversation to talk about why is this important and what really is the goal that we're trying to achieve here. After we had that conversation, Dr. Mills, I noticed the team just started flowing and we were able to actually accomplish it ahead of schedule.
Yes.
Realignment is really important.
Absolutely. What I've discovered is a lot of times coming into a broken team, we tend to focus on what's wrong. And we need to understand what's wrong and not focus on what's wrong, but focus on fixing the culture. If we fix the culture, the people will fix what's wrong.
Yes. Yes, I love that. So as you're talking, I'm thinking about the word restoration, right? And one of the key takeaways we have here is realignment is about restoring direction and flow, not adding pressure or more processes. Now, there may be a need for process improvement. We're not saying don't improve, but don't add on these extra things just to add it on as a measure of control. No, no, no. Restore the direction and the flow without pressure. Okay, so Dr. Mills, I want to ask you this question, right? We're talking about realignment. Now we're going to look at refocusing. Refocusing a team, it can be tricky when we have team members that are overwhelmed or everybody's feeling burned out. And I'm going to put a pin in that for a moment. In the culture, the times in which we're living right now, many of our organizations and our teams are being called to do less with less. And in some spaces, based on what the mission is, based on the requirements, avoiding being overwhelmed and burnt out it's a really interesting task, right? All by itself. So I want to ask you, how can we help our people to recenter on what truly matters, again, without adding pressure?
It's a good question, and one that, at least in the military context where I operate, we often end up pursuing a mission of some kind. There's some kind of a goal, and in and of itself, there's some internal pressure that happens with that. We don't need to add to that by setting arbitrary deadlines that force people to jump through hoops to make us look good. If we're refocusing the effort not on what makes us look good, but what makes the team accomplish the mission, then a lot of times we end up in a place that works much better, and we're much more successful in accomplishing that mission. It's about improving internal communication. So many times, once the team understood why we were being tasked with something fully, they said, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I can get behind that. And they started to perform rather than just being workhorses, pulling in a direction that somebody was lashing them to without understanding why. Whenever we can, we give them the strategic why. This is what we're aiming for. This is why it's important. Here's who we're taking care of by accomplishing this goal. And this is what success means for us and for the people that we report to. And when that strategic communication is flowing well, most often people say, okay, I get it. It's not to make you look good as a leader. It's not to enhance your rank or your reputation or anything like that. It's about taking care of people. That's what I can do. So strategic communication, I think, helps that refocus greatly. The other half of this is listening.
Yep, say that.
Listening to the force, listening to them, listening to their concerns, finding out where the sticky points are, where in the military we call it fog and friction, where those friction points are that are not allowing us to succeed. And then once we understand the people who are doing it every day, their points of view, and we say, okay, well, I get it now. We can restructure processes in such a way that it removes pressure instead of adds pressure. So yeah, this for me has been an eye opener
Mm-hmm.
to understand and listen carefully to what the workers are saying, and then say, okay, well, do you have any suggestions on how we could fix this? And a lot of times the rank and file will come up with exactly what we need. Other times we have to say, well, this is why that one won't work. But
Yes.
um, and explain as much as we can without throwing anybody under the bus,
Mm-hmm.
why our decisions are what they are. So when I sense that there's buy-in with that listening, that strategic communication, and that listening, then I feel like we can start to recast the vision and refocus the effort and move people forward.
Absolutely. And as you were talking, I was thinking, Dr. Mills, that, when we consistently build cultures that have communication and that value the voice of the team, then when we find ourselves in those scenarios where maybe we don't have a lot of time to explain the why, the team still trusts our
That's it.
leadership and our direction.
That's
So
it.
it's important when there isn't this, hustle and bustle that we take time in our daily practice. One of the things that our team started doing is we have our staff meeting, our weekly staff meetings. And before we start talking about business, we take time to go around the table. How are you doing? We
Yep.
may not have 30 minutes to go through everybody's life story, but we take a moment. Hey, did anybody do anything fun this weekend? Anybody try a new food this week? We just bring humanity to the meeting for a few moments, and then we get into the business. And it reminds me of this principle here that says start with empathy before expectation. When
Yes.
people feel understood, they become reopened to purpose. And I've seen this. I've seen it where people feel like the leader that they're following values them. Listen, they will stay late, they will come in early, they will go the extra mile because that leader took time to value, took time to listen.
Yeah. When we invest in the team will invest in the success and mission
Go.
accomplishment.
I love that. When we invest in the team will invest in the success of the mission and accomplishment. Ooh, that's powerful right there. All right, everybody who's watching and listening right now, I want to invite you to go ahead and write that down. And also you have to watch this on the replay and share this with someone else. That's a powerful leadership gem right there. And we're going to take a moment to do a reflection on a principle which says, ask ourselves this question, all of us, have I paused long enough to see what my team actually needs, not just what I want them to produce? Oh, leaders, please. This is so important. I'm going to repeat this one more time because, this is even speaking to me right now. Here's the question that we want to ask ourselves. Have I paused long enough to see what my team actually needs, not just what I want them to produce? I dare say, Dr. Mills, that when we pause to actually look with no judgment, what does my team need? It gives us a different mindset in
Hmm.
how we respond to what that need is and how we respond to our team as they are identifying the need. Sometimes we can be defensive, and other times we can just open up the door for the team to have a shared responsibility in accomplishing what needs to happen. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. And it goes back to that stewardship principle. If
Mm,
we believe that we are stewards of the success of the team,
mhm.
if we believe that we are empowered to empower them,
Yes.
then we're going to make that investment that I talked about a couple of minutes ago because it's good for them. It's good for
Yes.
them to succeed. Now, failure is not a horrible thing. We tend to stay away from it. It's like, oh, I don't want to fail. Well, once in a while, failure is good for us. It teaches many lessons, but we're not here to learn to fail. We can learn from failure, though.
Mhm.
So my point in this comes back to the stewardship. If we are adequately and carefully and intentionally stewarding the goodwill, the energy, the success of the team, they're going to feel that and understand our heart. You talked about trust a couple of minutes ago, and it does come down to trust, because there are some times when we can't tell the full reason.
Yes.
There are times it's just like, you know what, you're going to have to trust me on this, and when I can, I will explain. And everybody's like, okay, I'll pull, I'll go, I'll work. When you've established that trust. If you haven't, they won't.
It won't.
And yeah, it will hurt. So yeah, the principle here is to apply the stewardship to the success of the group. Let them succeed. Give them something that a small win.
Yes.
If you can't give them a huge win at the beginning, and this is one of Cotter's 8 steps, and that is celebrate small wins. There you go. Yep. Progress over perfection. Sometimes the 80% solution is exactly what is needed. Instead of waiting 3 more weeks to get the 100%, that's too late.
I love that. So let's shift to reigniting, right? I want to ask you, what role does motivation play versus clarity, communication, or trust? Talking about reigniting with motivation. What role does motivation play versus clarity, communication, and trust?
Motivation's important, but it's not the most important, in my opinion. Clarity, communication, and trust can stand in the stead of motivation. Now, I worked in sales for a while earlier in my career, and I saw a lot of motivational techniques. Get yourself psyched up and go. And a lot of times they felt very artificial to me. And it felt like I was getting myself all excited to go and share something that maybe I didn't fully, completely believe in. And there are people who can read that. There are people who can understand, and there's a radar. So instead of trying to artificially pump people up, my goal is to clearly communicate the mission and help people understand why we need to do what we need to do. And when they feel trusted, when they feel heard, when they feel understood, when they feel valued, they will step up with internal motivation, because they feel like you've created a safe space for them. I'll give you a short example. I was leading a group of about 60 volunteers, and we were working in search and rescue. It was a Civil Air Patrol unit that I was the commanding officer for. And we were about to stand a short notice inspection, and they were so worried. Every department head was running scared that they were going to make a mistake and make us look bad. And I pulled them all together and I said, listen, we're going to do well in this inspection, but here's why. If there's somewhere that you have messed up, then I'm going to take credit for the mistake publicly and tell the inspectors that it's my fault. If there's somewhere that you've done well, then I'm going to publicly praise you and let the inspectors know that you are the one who accomplished the great thing that you accomplished. And they all visibly breathed this huge sigh of relief and said, oh, okay. So when I, as the leader, said, I'm going to take credit for the wrongs, I'm going to give you credit for the wins, it took the pressure off, and we aced the inspection because it removed all that stress from the process.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that's helped. Yeah.
I love that. And removing the stress from the process is definitely what we want to do as leaders, right? That's a part of our role and our job. And so I love this. We're talking about motivation without clarity leads to chaos. And we want to decrease the chaos. You started off talking about realignment, how it begins when everyone knows what matters most and why it matters. I think about one of our former chief of chaplains who, where it matters, when it matters, why,
Yep.
why it matters. And
Yep.
it really helped to bring clarity, right? Because you can have an energized team running in different directions. That's not performance. That's exhaustion.
Yes.
That's exhaustion. And
Yeah.
we want to decrease the exhaustion and the burnout factors. All right. So, can you share a time when a team you worked with found its flow again? What shifted? What did it take to sustain that momentum?
I sure can. And it brings together quite a few of the the principles we've talked about. One of my previous jobs, I was a chaplain for a large number of Marine recruiters. And our recruiting district for the last 3 years before I got there had come in dead last in the country in meeting recruiting goals. Dead last every year for the last 3 years. The last two commanding officers before I got there and the one after I got there had been fired for lack of performance. So the morale was flat on the floor when I got there. And I got there, and a new commanding officer came in shortly after. And we sat together in a room and closed the door and talked for a couple of hours about what could be done to turn this around. And what we came up with together, and he was listening to his chaplain, which was a wonderful thing. What we came up with together was we don't have to make mission. We need to fix the culture, and then the people that we're working to fix will make the mission. And that is exactly what happened. We formed working groups from different ranks, military ranks, from our civilian workers. We formed working groups and listened to them and wrote up what they said on whiteboards, and then took pictures of what they said on the whiteboards, and then brought that back, and then worked again and again with those suggestions. And the first month that the commanding officer had a meeting, he said, by the way, Sergeant so-and-so had a great suggestion, and this is what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, somebody that was very junior in the rank structure was empowered by this colonel, this very senior leader, and said, wow, they're listening. And over time, and it took about 3 months, over time, they started to make mission. And it wasn't because they were getting browbeat or pushed harder or thrashed to work longer hours or anything like that. It was because clarity of communication, listening, and yes, transforming the force, not with the goal of making mission, with the goal of transforming the force. And once everybody saw why it was so important, they started to actually hit the goals and made mission. That group now, I've been gone for a year, and they have made mission every single month since the second month after that colonel arrived. Every single month, from dead last to first in the nation.
Mercy. Listen, leaders, we have a very live example right here of how this works. I want to thank you so much for sharing this with us, Dr. Mel. So as we turn the corner on this amazing conversation, I'm going to ask that you will speak to our community. There is a listener, there is a leader, rather. There is a leader who is listening right now. And this leader suspects that their team energy is fragmented, or they just flat out know that the team energy is fragmented. Share with us, what's one small but powerful move that they can make this week to start getting the flow back again?
I would say the first thing that I would advise in this is sitting down with your team members, and instead of saying, this is what I need you to do for me, you say, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And listen when they talk. Write things down. Make decisions based on those things that they give you. that's an easy start to this whole process. Instead of saying, this is what I need you to do for me, sit with them and say, what can I do for you? That is good stewardship. That's listening. That is applying what you've listened to policy or decision making or to processes. So yeah, instead of driving harder, sit down, take the pressure off, get on the eye level with them and say, what can I do for you?
Absolutely. This has been amazing. I mean that very sincerely. Absolutely amazing. And so I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are leaders who are listening and watching, and they want to reach out to you. And so I'm going to ask you, one, tell us, how can we stay engaged with you, and tell us about any resources that you may have.
Sure. I'm in the process of writing a leadership book right now. It's not finished. I don't even have a title. So that will be coming in the next few months, I'm sure. But I do have a book that's out for publishing right now. And I have a website. It's called TOR Healing. So I call it Trees of Righteousness. Trees of Righteousness. And this is about dealing with trauma, grief, and pain from the Christian point of view. So I'm Christian. That's kind of my worldview. Yours may be different, but for those who are interested in kind of discovering how to deal with trauma, grief, and pain from a Christian point of view, check out torhealing.org. You can get in touch with me there. You can drop me an email or a message on the website. You can actually book me for speaking as well. At this point, it's speaking around trauma, grief, and pain. But I'm also starting to accept appointments for leadership and transition. So if you're interested, torhealing.org will work for both. So feel free to drop over there, take a look, and let me know how it's going. And if there's something I can do to help, I'd be happy to.
Fantastic. So listeners and viewers, you see the website here on the screen. It's also in the description box. We want to invite you to go ahead and reach out to Dr. Mills. Let him know that you saw this episode. Share with him what resonated with you. Ask him questions. Tap into the resources that he has for us, because we are a community that continues to grow and learn together. Dr. Mills, again, it has been absolutely wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you. You too. All right. Well, listen, leaders, here's the truth, right? Leadership isn't just about driving the performance. It's about protecting the flow of your team. When we fix the flow, we don't just get better workers, we get healthier, more connected people. If today's episode spoke to you, I want to invite you right now to share it with another leader who's ready to lead with intention and bring fresh energy to your team. And don't forget to subscribe to the Transformation Station podcast on Facebook, YouTube, so you never miss out on a Monday and Wednesday leadership episode. Until next time, keep leading with clarity, keep on communicating with care, and keep the flow alive.